My name is Betsy Knox. I am a junior. I'm a political science major and a history and Chinese minor. I'm on the varsity basketball team here at Middlebury.
Hi, my name is Nick. I'm a junior biochemistry major. I'm a Chinese minor, and I'm from Connecticut.
My name is Wyatt Hinton. I am a sophomore currently. I am studying Chinese and political science, and I am also on the squash team.
I'm Haoyang Yu. I'm from Yantai, China, and I'm a senior studying mathematics.
My name's Jack Farrell. I'm a sophomore here at Middlebury. I'm a member of the men's basketball team. My major is economics, so I'm going to try to minor in Chinese.
Hello, my name is Robbie Holly. I'm a junior at Middlebury. My major is history and my minor is Chinese.
My name is Kira. I'm a junior geology major and I'm from San Francisco and I'm on the Middlebury women's basketball team.
I'm Maya. I'm also a junior. I'm from outside of Boston, Massachusetts. I also am on the Middlebury women's basketball team.
This past summer, I was in Beijing for 2 months studying abroad, and I was at the Duke program. At my school that I was at, Duiwai Jingji Maui Dashi, there were 9 basketball courts lined up, and every night they would fill up with about 500 people. It was just wild how many people were there. I would go and I would be one of the only girls there, and people were actually staring at me. It was funny because no one was passing to me. And I was trying to figure out why, because they were passing to this other guy, one of my friends, who they didn't know either. My assumption was that they passed to him because he was a guy and he looked pretty athletic, whereas they probably weren't used to seeing a lot of girls in a public park who were good at basketball. I went several times to that basketball court, and the whole time I was there, I think I saw one other girl on the court.
If it was less crowded, usually they would play some games, and there were actually some like organized teams there with girls, and that was like where I saw girls play. But I don't think, in general, I didn't play against or with girls during my time there. No.
I don't see. I feel like I played street basketball for 10 years back in China, but I haven't seen like. There are probably a girl or two like every month, but it's really, really rare. Girls in China are not really encouraged to play basketball or to play sports in general. I feel like there's also like this bias that girls cannot really do sports as well as guys, and there's not like a way out for girls doing like sports in China.
So what this year is, it is a program that we run here at Mid called Sisters in Sport, which kind of pairs local youth in the community, specifically like teams at the middle school and stuff, with teams at Middlebury, women's teams, to show what a role model of strong female athletes can be. And it's a great program. We go to some of their practices, they come to ours, and we cheer each other on at games, and it's really fun getting to know the middle schoolers.
There's a number, and it's like a very high number of girls in like elementary school and high school end up quitting sports and don't continue through. And so the hope is like when they see us as college athletes, like they'll want to do the same thing, so they'll continue with their sport.
A huge problem in China is that we don't really have a great system for youth development, like in basketball in China. Because most people got to know basketball like when they turn on the TV, probably like, and they started playing at the age of like probably 9, 10, which is relatively late for like basketball players.
I coach squash at Beijing Normal University using their athletic center. I would have kids come in to have their first squash lesson and had never done anything athletic before, like anything, and I would try to be like, oh, just like you're throwing a ball, and they couldn't even throw like a ball or like catch. There's no hand coordination. It was unbelievable because everyone plays sports in America.
You just don't get a lot of like organized sports going on, especially at the youth level.
I've been playing basketball my whole life. I think the first team I was on was called the Lion Queens when I was in kindergarten.
I started playing basketball. Well, I've been playing my whole life, but I would say I started playing on a team in 3rd or 4th grade.
I have been to China before. The first time I went, I just went around and traveled, but the second time I went, I actually coached at a basketball camp for young kids. I didn't really know if basketball was going to be much different over in China versus how it is here. But pretty much all the drills that we did with the kids were pretty much all the same drills that we do in America for practice and just workouts and things like that. So yeah, it was a cool experience seeing just there's so many similarities between like how people play over there versus here.
Yeah, the style was just like pick up at home. Like you play with random people, shoot the ball around.
When I went, I wasn't too good at Chinese, so a lot of the time we just have to communicate through just like general like just body language and just like communicating without speaking on the court, which was that was definitely a cool experience. So
basketball language is not included in the main textbooks and things like that. So I know how to say the sport of basketball in Chinese, but that's pretty much it. On the court, I didn't really know how to say like pass me the ball or like I got your help or the usual ways you communicate in basketball in Chinese, and they didn't know English. So it was a lot of just body language communication. But like with sports, it's a universal language. Like everyone knows you're supposed to pass to someone when they're open or gets really excited when someone scores. So it wasn't that hard to connect without having all the perfect words in the language.
So basketball for me and my roommate was probably the only thing we got along with. When we did hang out, it was almost always with basketball. Like that was the one thing he really enjoyed, the one thing I really enjoyed, and so we would play like 2 hours for every single day, every single week. So the one way I got to know him best was through basketball. Yeah.
And the NBA is like super popular over there, so we all had that in common.
I think basketball can be a really, really, really amazing way to bring different kinds of people together. I think what's so great about the sport of basketball specifically is like you don't need a ton of equipment and you don't need a ton of socioeconomic privilege that comes along with the sport of basketball. Really all you need is like a court and a hoop and a ball. Basketball has a great reach into all different sorts of people, and in that, people then can come together with some exposure to it.
I think it has a greater amount of access because there are some sports that if you don't know how to skate, you can't really play hockey. Or like there are more barriers to other sports than I think to basketball.
A lot of like basketball fans or enthusiasts, they just go to the park. You know, if you've been to China, you know, there are all the parks with like basketball courts, like really shitty conditions, some of them. But like everybody's playing. I know when I first started watching NBA, I was like, oh my god, there are so many like great players in the US. And then that's actually how I first started to learn like English and like when I first started to like pick up like American cultures and everything. So I think that has a very significant influence. Like for a lot of Chinese youth, is getting to know like American stuff, like culture and lifestyle and everything, and it also introduces like racial diversity. I'm not like trying to be controversial here, but you know, a lot of people in China, especially like people not in the big cities, they're not really, because China is a very homogeneous country in terms of like ethnicity and race, so people don't really see like a lot of like different people like hang out and mingling with each other. So like for a lot of people, like watching the NBA is the first experience to see like, you know, Asians and like African Americans and like Caucasians like, you know, playing together and everything. So I think that's also like a positive experience like for a lot of Chinese people.
The Warriors do this awesome thing where they have a bunch of different like heritage nights throughout their season honoring different identities and backgrounds, and the most popular one is the Chinese Heritage Night. And all the players sport uniforms that have their names on the Warriors written in Chinese characters, and also there's a bunch of really great Chinese food from different local vendors, and there's a huge population of Chinese people in San Francisco that all show up to the game, or not all, but many show up to the game, and it's a really great event that brings the community together. And at halftime there's always a show which is really fun to watch. I actually had the honor of going to it a couple of years ago. It was pretty hard to get tickets because it's a really popular game, but I was able to go, and it was just really fun kind of seeing all the camaraderie around honoring Chinese heritage and how special that is in the Bay Area especially.
I'm pretty sure like there are more people watching the NBA than the CBA, because I watched the CBA when I was like in middle school, basically supporting my home team, but then I just feel like it's not really as exciting as the NBA, like because of the facilities, the lighting, and the players and everything.
So I was at a CBA game. It was in Beijing, and they were playing, I think, Xinjiang, which is the western province. I guess I'll start by saying like the crowd was pretty packed. It was a pretty small arena though. They weren't serving drinks. They only served like peanuts and like water. I think because China's so big about making sure that populations stay under control and there's no like rioting or no like discourse, they prevent like alcohol in the stadiums. Whereas like at an MSU game, like half the people that are drunk tended to be more loud and more into the game as opposed to China. But the game in China was still pretty upbeat. The people were still getting into it. Obviously, like the plays being made aren't as like flashy or like there's no James Harden or like Giannis like on the floor like destroying everyone, like making the game look really fun. But it's still basketball, so it's still like this like upbeat, high tempo sport that like is enjoyable to watch the entire time. The game was good. Went to overtime. Game winning shot, layup. This one guy who was from America, and that was the game. But overall, pretty cool.
I watch NBA all the time, so there's always like NBA games in China, and there's always like Chinese like professional teams that try to compete with the NBA. Now that I'm at like a D3 school, like I know like I probably don't have the opportunity to play in the NBA, but I think a lot of like people that have been successful at the D3 level like have tried to play like abroad. I know like Matt St. Amour, who graduated like a couple years ago, plays over in Ireland last year and like studied for his master's. So definitely like that would be something I would like want to pursue or like want to at least like learn more about, whether there's like professional like teams like at like kind of a lower level that would give me an opportunity to kind of like study there or also just play there.
At the time when Yao was really popular, there was this minority, everybody's loved Kobe Bryant, but because Yao is the domestic hero, so that Houston Rockets are probably like they were the most popular team.
I never really like read an autobiography on like Yao Ming or like really like studied that much about him, but I've always thought that like he's had a huge impact on the NBA. I've watched a lot of documentaries about like during his era, like playing against Shaquille O'Neal and like all the big greats like that have been in the NBA and like how dominant he was. Obviously he was like 7'6", but I think he did a lot for China to be able to inspire a lot of people over like across the other side of the world to like be able to pursue something like he did, and it definitely unites like the cultures, I feel. He kind of paved a pathway that like a lot of people in China, or a lot of people not even in China but other countries, definitely took inspiration in like something that they wanted to do.
There was a lot of hype around Yao Ming, and I actually traveled to China in 2009, and I remember like literally the first thing coming out of the airport was like a huge billboard with Yao Ming. I think it was in his Rockets jersey at the time, which was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, when Yao was playing, I was a huge Rockets fan, but now I'm basically just watching everything. It was Yao Ming. That was a phenomenon in China. Yeah, at that time, everybody was like watching basketball and supporting Yao because he was like really huge. He was probably like one of the most influential, but not only basketball player but athletes in China, probably like in the last 20 years. So I feel like everybody was supporting the Rockets, like when Yao was in his prime, and that's how I got in. Like even my mom, my dad, like my grandparents knew about Yao and know he's really good. In China, everybody was like shooting mid ranges and doing all the like hook shots and everything like Yao. And at that time, I feel like in China, because you don't get a lot of like formal basketball training at formal basketball games, so like everybody is doing like street pickup games, and then you can just see the trend. And I remember 10 years ago, everybody was like playing the center and like trying to do all the things that Yao did at that time.
It was almost as if people were playing basketball like they watched on TV. Steph Curry pulls up from 30 feet out, so that's an okay shot. Or James Harden does step backs. So those were more frequent than a structured women's basketball game that I'm used to playing in the U.S.
There are a lot of young kids who just love like Kobe Bryant's jump shots and like driving to the basket and everything, and a lot of people imitate it.
Players who weren't necessarily super skilled were trying hard things, and things that they had definitely seen on TV from NBA stars. So I think that a lot of Chinese people like the NBA so much because it connects the Chinese culture and the American culture. And players like Klay Thompson, Yao Ming, Steph Curry, all these players who people in China and people in the US like so much, they're a connection, they're a bridge between cultures. And I think the sport of basketball as a whole and the NBA is a huge cultural connection.
Now basketball is my favorite sport. I like the way they dribble up and down the court. I keep it so fresh on the microphone. I like no interruption when the game is on. I like slam dunk to take me to the hoop. My favorite play is the alley-oop. I like to